Good afternoon. My name is Robert Rubio, and this is week 2 of the meeting reviews, the go-to meeting reviews. We discussed quite a bit in this meeting. We were able to discuss more in depth, or really touch on and cover objects, which we learned a lot in SDI, or learned a little bit in SDI, and now we're really implementing them into something that is useful in an app version. So some of the things that we learned um, are the property values, and basically the scope, and how to call them in the scope. Um, we were able to use dot syntax notation when basically calling or using into the objects, into the depths of it, to drill down into it. Um, but one of the things that we have to remember is the type of data that we're calling. So maybe we have an array nested inside of our object, and instead of an object inside of an object, we have to ensure that when we use the array that we're using the right square brace to call on it, and that way we're not trying to call basically an object data. We learned about for-in loops, which are like for loops, except you're not declaring in the iterator and then plus plus. I found those to be a little bit more easy to understand, which is great. We can extract the object contain any kind of data. The type is based on the value on the right of the property, so the data type on the right of the property. So that's how you'll determine what kind of property is. This kind of hierarchy of information in objects allows for a better and cleaner user experience, because we're able to weed out any unnecessary details and only use what we need. Also, we learned that when nesting loops, paying attention to whether, I already touched on that. Modularization is something we talked about at the end. Basically, this is how to call on from the main Bootstrap file, how to call the variables and other data that we might want to call from the secondary file, because in the secondary file we can pull from Bootstrap, but not vice versa. But we learn how to do that by using exports.varname, or exports dot, and so that's a really neat way of pulling and using data from the other file if it's absolutely necessary. And that's basically it. It was a pretty long week on recordings. On that, it was a little bit long of a class, but we went over quite a bit. I'm excited to get started on this week's app. So best of luck to everyone, and y'all have a wonderful afternoon.